group started way back in 1943, and that was in West Africa, a place called Freetown. We're still there. And then in the mid-70s we moved to Dubai, and I think that was a watershed moment for us. I like to think of us, although we have a very long history, it crossed 75 years, that we're actually continuous agents of change and innovators. So I give you an example of the early days where we did some innovation. And it says something more about Dubai, something good about Dubai, and less about us in a sense, because we all take fresh milk as for granted. Can you believe, as far back or as recently as the late 70s, there was no fresh milk here. And we had one outlet, which used to have queues outside into the pavement, which is a Jumeirah Beach Road, because we'd bring fresh milk in once a week by air. And that was a very pioneering thing to do. Naturally, like all sorts of things like that, innovation fades away because it becomes a mainstream thing. So there's a host of those sort of things that we've been doing over the years. But we are perceived as a supermarket operator, and I welcome that. But we're many things other than supermarket. We're into manufacturing in the region. We're into representing great brands. So there's a lot. Our journey around the world is we started in Sierra Leone. We next went to, believe it or not, Hong Kong, where again we continue to be there. We've been there 60 years. We moved across to the UK in 1960. Again, not retail. There we have a manufacturing business. And for many years, actually, we lost money because we were ahead of the curve. We were doing organic food, and there were no takers at that time. Anyway, we persevered, and now, of course, again, it's a mainstream pursuit by consumers. We then moved to Spain, then across to Germany, and we continue in those markets. And more pertinent to this thing, we came across to Dubai in the 1970s. Dubai has all the ingredients for life. It's the dynamism of Dubai has been innate in it from way back. Yeah? I think the rulers themselves had a very entrepreneurial spirit, and the reason for going to Dubai, because actually it was a practical thing. Flights from Africa across to India and the subcontinent used to stop in Sharm. I came here, funnily enough, I came here in 1995. I came here intending to be for 9 days, but I never left. And that's the story I hear other people also say. As a business, we had already acquired certain agencies in other countries that were not in Dubai, and we saw an opportunity. A couple of examples of that is that in West Africa, we were the agents for Lipton tea. Of course, that's a great household brand, but we were the people that initially represented them in this market. It was not an inevitability that I joined Choithrams. Okay, I'm the son of the founder. I had been working actually in the private sector for 11 years in the UK. There I was working in health. I did that very happily. And as I said, it was an incidental thing that brought me to Dubai. I remember my dad told me very vividly, "Oh, why don't you leave that?" And I said, "Oh, but Dad, I don't like the world of business, pushing and shoving and bartering." He says, "No, that's not what I'm inviting you to do. I'm inviting you to join hands with me to do the other side of Choithrams, the other face of Choithrams, which is running schools and hospitals." Yeah. So that's what a kind of a very beloved attraction, and that turned it for me. Yeah? So I was about 35 then. I'm not going to talk about growth in terms of numbers of outlets and expansion in terms of the thing. I'm talking more about growth in terms of the people we work with, the building up of a network of relationships. Dubai, sometimes it's said, is a place where it's difficult to develop friendships and you have more associates. Yeah? I think in our case, we have worked very hard to grow friendships And that has had an inadvertent, a welcome payoff in terms of the entrepreneurial side of things. Yeah? Now, since 2000, the group ownership is owned by a charitable foundation. It's something that we don't normally pitch as a goody two-shoes aspect, but one of the consequences of that is that it changes your outlook. Your spirit, your effort, your mind, the livelihood, colleague engagement, and tone of voice, which is something I think we need to improve a lot these days because it's all become a bit speedy and a bit edgy, so that sort of thing. This goes back to an earlier part of the growth of the group. My father had made a promise when he started his business that as soon as he made something that had a bit of surplus, he would try and do some good and give back to the community. So in 1959, he created his first trust, which was called the Choithram Remembrance Trust. Since then, he built in his lifetime a very large hospital in central India, a hospital in West Africa, and then from that also a number of schools. The very first thing he did in terms of giving back to the community and society was actually to set up a maternity unit. And that has come full circle now because we've scaled up and run birthing centers and all that. Yeah? So that was something that had been running for about 40 years before he passed away. Very significantly and very tellingly, a month before he passed away, he made a declaration of trust and gave all his wealth away. Yeah, he made separate provision, very modest provision for his family, and that meant that both his wealth and shares in the group are held by this foundation, which has now grown exponentially. In that foundation, we employ more people than we do in Choithrams Dubai. It works in that we have trustees in the foundation, and in the business we have partners and directors. There's a good harmonious interaction because we have trust boards and things like that. But that's kind of like a formal structure. The thing that is precious is the warmth, being able to express criticism without seeing it as the end of the world. And we've become very synergized in the way we work together. You can tell a brother off, you can tell your sister off and repair very quickly. You can receive criticism and it has the seeds of its own recovery. There's a number of things that have changed. Change is necessary, it actually gives you vitality. However, the current change is not so much in terms of growth or new products. It's actually the consumer is the one that drives change. Before you create something and bring it to the market and then say, look at this, isn't it great? Try some. But now it's the consumer that's driving change. They're much more discerning, much more demanding, and they're quick to correct you. That gives you strength if you're able to take it as something well received. Attention spans have also changed. The shopping experience, whilst we try and offer the best we can, the shopper is much more explicit. They come into stores, into the bricks and mortar store much more prepared because they've done work online and in the internet, so their knowledge is very impressive and we need to be mindful of that. We as a group, I'm very glad now we're in 2019, and if I say 2014, that sounds like near recent, but it's actually in terms of development, ancient history. But we're very glad in 2014 we took an early step to commit to e-commerce and try and create something different because we've got our stores, that's something that is an anchor, but we expanded to the e-commerce, and in that also we're offering unique selling points. By that I mean air-freighted products, perishables, ultra-fresh, and we bring it to your door quickly. Those are the things that we're trying to do. One of the other things is in our communications, and you would know better than me, conversations are now really critical. So subliminal messages through the net, all the Instagrams and all that, we've invested heavily in nurturing and being a player and a friend off-site in that. Pricing strategy is really in the forefront of one's mind. As I said, the consumer is very well aware of what competitors and our friends in retail are offering. We have a very strong business intelligence team that also do spot checks and keep abreast of current prices, and we're very responsive. The other thing that we do is through our supply chain around the world, we try and bring to market things that have not yet been launched. So you have an opportunity to price those before the volumes come in, and that gives you also a position of distinctiveness, both in terms of availability, uniqueness, and price. The UAE market is, number one, the most variety-rich market because of the demographics and the community audience is from so many parts of the world. So you can get in a Dubai supermarket, not just in a Choithrams supermarket, but a classic Dubai supermarket, a range of offers that you would probably not find in other countries. The Dubai consumer is also unhappily pampered. Okay? So if you take something like a Japanese range, all the sushis and all the ingredients for cooking something Japanese, it's instantly available. In some countries you'd have to go to a specialty shop and search it out and things like that. Access to a supermarket or a grocery or a hyper is also partly helped by the way the infrastructure is developed. Yeah? And I think shopping is not merely a functional thing, it's got an element of joy. And I think that's one of the differences between the UAE and some of the other countries we operate in, where it's very much more transactional, right? Price it, is it there, sell it. The relationship nurturing is less. We were one of the first, maybe the first operator to introduce graphics into supermarkets. To say that now is almost baffling because every store has it. Yeah? But that's one of the typical things. Yeah, I think training also has ratcheted up. In those days, you relied more on the innate ability of your colleagues and staff, whereas now you have that, but you also give training modules and actually take customer service as almost a syllabus. Yeah? And that's really important. Okay. You have to have the skill to apologize, for instance. Yeah? Whereas before, it was much more relying on the individuality and the ability of your member of staff. Our HR team sometimes has another description, which is education and training. That's so vital because not only customer service, quality control, hygiene, understanding the management of wastage, it's a whole myriad of things. We're in about 19 countries. We have quite a spread of our activities, so we're manufacturing, we have flour mills, we have biscuit factories, we have tea production, but it's all focused on food, that side of it. We're in pharmaceuticals and we're in agri-commodities, so quite a diverse thing. One of the things that's really important now is kindness with each other. I see that all the time, the need for that, and I think that's a vital